What if I told you that one of the most beloved stars in history didn't just fade away? What if he was pushed? For years, we thought Brendan Fraser vanished because he lost his talent. But the truth is much darker. He was silenced by a powerful group that punished him for speaking up. This is the story of how the Hollywood elite protected their own, and how Brendan Fraser fought his way back from the dead. If you were alive in the 1990s, you couldn't escape Brendan Fraser. He was everywhere. He was the handsome hero, the funny goofball, and the action star all rolled into one. He wasn't just an actor, he was a feeling. He made us feel good. Movies like The Mummy and George of the Jungle made hundreds of millions of dollars. Studios fought to get him in their films. He was on top of the mountain. But then, the hits stopped coming. The phone stopped ringing. Slowly, Brendan Fraser disappeared from our screens. For a long time, people made jokes. They said he let himself go. They said he got old. The media was cruel. But while the world was laughing, Brendan was suffering in silence. He was hiding a secret that was eating him alive. He hadn't just quit. He had been crushed by a system that operates like a secret society. A system we are going to call the Hollywood Mafia. To understand why he vanished, we first have to understand what he gave to us. Brendan wasn't like other stars who let stunt doubles do the hard work. He wanted to be real. When you saw him get thrown into a wall in The Mummy, that was really him. When he swung from vines, that was him. He threw his body around like a rag doll to entertain us. But the human body has a limit. By 2008, Brendan was broken. He later said that every morning, he had to build himself an exoskeleton just to leave the house. He was held together by tape and ice packs. He spent 7 years in and out of hospitals. He had surgeries on his back. He had part of his knee replaced. He even had to have his vocal cords repaired. He was literally falling apart to make us smile. But physical pain he could handle. What he couldn't handle was the betrayal that happened in the summer of 2003. It was a sunny day in Beverly Hills. Brendan was attending a lunch at the Beverly Hills Hotel. This event was hosted by the HFPA, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. You might not know that name, but you know what they do. They run the Golden Globe Awards. In Hollywood, the Golden Globes are huge. They are the key to winning Oscars. If the HFPA likes you, your movie succeeds. If they don't, you're in trouble. At this lunch, Brendan ran into a man named Philip Burke. Philip Burke was not just a member, he was the president of the HFPA. He was one of the most powerful men in the industry. Brendan went to shake his hand, but according to Brendan, Philip Burke did something else. In a room full of people, the president of the HFPA reached out and grabbed Brendan. It wasn't an accident. It was an assault. Brendan froze. He later said he felt like a little kid. He felt like he had a ball in his throat. He felt like someone had thrown invisible paint on him that he couldn't wash off. He was a big, strong action hero. But in that moment, he felt powerless. He rushed out of the hotel, past a police officer, and went home to tell his wife. He was terrified. Now, imagine you are Brendan Fraser. You have just been assaulted by one of the bosses of Hollywood. What do you do? Brendan's team demanded an apology. Philip Burke wrote a letter, but it wasn't a real apology. He basically said, "If I did something to upset you, I'm sorry, but it was just a joke." The HFPA said they would investigate. They looked into it and told Brendan that while the touching happened, it was just horseplay. They wanted Brendan to sign a statement agreeing that it was all just a joke. Brendan refused. He knew what happened. It wasn't a joke. Suddenly, Brendan Fraser wasn't invited to the Golden Globes anymore. The big directors stopped calling. The studios, who need the HFPA's support to win awards, cooled off on Brendan. He wasn't officially fired. Hollywood doesn't work like that. It's more like a soft ban. They just ghost you. They stop answering your calls. Brendan began to wonder, is it my fault? He fell into a deep depression. He blamed himself. He thought he deserved it. And while his career was freezing over, his personal life fell apart too. His mother died of cancer. His marriage ended in a painful divorce. The man who had everything had lost it all. For 15 years, the man who assaulted Brendan remained in power. He was still the president. He was still voting on awards. He was still walking red carpets. This is why people call it the Hollywood Mafia. It's not about guns, it's about protection. The organization protected their leader and sacrificed the actor. Brendan watched from the sidelines as new stars rose and fell. He took small roles in bad movies just to pay the bills. He gained weight because of his injuries and his depression. The internet, not knowing the truth, became cruel. People made memes about his looks. They didn't know that the man in the photos was a survivor who had been punished for speaking the truth. It seemed like the story was over. Brendan Fraser was just a memory. But the world was changing. In 2018, the hashtag #MeToo movement was sweeping across the world. People were finally listening to victims of abuse. A journalist named Zach Barron went to interview Brendan. He didn't expect much. He just wanted to know where the actor had gone. But Brendan decided to be brave. For the first time in 15 years, he told the truth. He told the world about the surgeries. He told the world about the depression. And he told the world about Philip Burke. He was terrified to say it. He was shaking, but he spoke. When the article came out, the reaction was instant. The internet didn't laugh anymore. They got angry. They realized they had been mocking a man who was in pain. The love for Brendan Fraser came rushing back. Fans started petitions. They flooded his social media with support. They wanted him to know, "We didn't leave you. We just didn't know." But the Hollywood machine is slow. It took 3 more years for the HFPA to finally expel Philip Burke. And guess what? They didn't kick him out for what he did to Brendan. They kicked him out for sending a racist email in 2021. That tells you everything you need to know. They protected him until the very end. With the truth out, a director named Darren Aronofsky saw something in Brendan. He didn't see a washed-up action star. He saw a man with deep sadness and a massive heart. He cast Brendan in a movie called The Whale. It was a hard role. Brendan had to play a man who was dying of obesity, a man filled with regret, trying to save his relationship with his daughter. It wasn't a fun adventure movie. It was raw and painful. In September 2022, Brendan flew to Italy for the Venice Film Festival. He was nervous. He hadn't been a quote-unquote movie star in decades. He didn't know if people would care. The movie ended, the lights came up, the audience stood up. They started clapping, and they didn't stop. For 6 minutes, the applause thundered through the room. Brendan tried to leave, but the director told him to stay. Brendan stood there, in his tuxedo, and broke down. He cried openly. He bowed. It wasn't just applause for a movie. It was an apology from the world. It was a welcome home. Months later, he stood on the stage at the Oscars. The man who had been blacklisted was holding the Academy Award for Best Actor. He looked at the crowd, the same crowd that had ignored him for years, and said,
"Years ago, and things, they didn't come easily to me, but there was a facility that I didn't appreciate at the time until it stopped."
He talked about being in the depths of the ocean and how the people who loved him were the only ones who could bring him air. Brendan Fraser's story is not just about acting. It is a story about how power works. The Hollywood Mafia thought they could crush him. They thought that if they ignored him, he would just go away. They protected their president and threw their star into the trash. But they forgot one thing. You can break a man's body. You can ruin his career. But you cannot kill the truth. Brendan Fraser lost 20 years of his career. We missed out on 20 years of his movies. We can never get that time back. But today, the HFPA has fallen apart. Their power is broken. And Brendan, he is back where he belongs, on the screen and in our hearts. Sometimes, the good guys do finish last, but they still finish. Thanks for watching. If you believe Brendan deserved better, hit that like button and tell us your favorite Brendan Fraser movie in the comments below. See you next time.